Warning, you're about to tune into the C.A.N.S podcast. Warning, you're about to tune into the C.A.N.S podcast. What's good, everybody? This is your boy Darkstar Menace, and I am back with another banger. And today we are going to be celebrating Black History Month, and what better way to do than to celebrate it with comic books? And today I'm bringing my homeboy Johnny D here to assist me on this one, where we're going to be covering, in my opinion, I think he's probably one of the most influential, African Americans that ever grace the face of comic books, and that's the late Dwayne Mcduffie.
I would take it a step further and say I don't think there's been another black man who's been more influential, and I would simply put him in the top rankings of influential comic book writers, period.
Right. And I wouldn't say just he's not because he's known for comic book writers, but what a lot of people don't know is that he actually was a screenwriter too. For he was if I'm not mistaken, he was a showrunner for Justice League Unlimited, right?
I think he was the showrunner for his show, and I think he was just one of the writers. I think Bruce Timm or the other guy, Dino was one of those two guys. I think was showrunner, but he was like showrunner on his show. And one of the funny things is like, Bruce Timm would talk about how he really didn't like going into the writer's room, how it was work and all this other stuff. But he's like, when it was over on Static, when I was under Dwayne Mcduffie's thing, he's like, it was some of the best moments of my life. He's like, I got to the point where I was looking forward to it every time. It was so great. And it's just because that's the energy Dwayne brought. He had so much of the pieces worked out that you didn't have to stress it. So, I mean, he was just that guy.
Yeah, not to mention, he knew how, one of the things I do love about Dwayne Mcduffie is that he knew how to take real life situations and controversial situations and write it to where it's not to the point where you're going to be an outrage, but at the same time, it really makes you think. You know what I mean? Like, prime example is that one episode of Static Shock that he did with Richie's dad being racist. And
right, which is early on too.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, for a kid's show, the way he handled that was just amazing. And let's be honest, you will never find another show that will be able to handle a sensitive topic like that and have it just be done so well.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about too, because everybody talks about when you go back in the day to that, that famous Green Lantern, Green Arrow one that they did where Green Arrow accuses the Green Lantern of being racist, and he has to start having, he starts questioning himself, and finally it comes down to the panel with the old black man where he says, you're out here doing all these things for purple and blue people in space, but what are you doing down here on the black man on Earth?
I remember that.
And it was a big thing, and one of the things everybody talked about is it got kids to talk about racism. But the flip side that nobody talks about is, what about the kid that comes from a racist household?
Right.
Think about this for a moment, because my dad was fairly racist and my grandfather was very racist. Right. And one of the things to me, what it said is, it's like, this person, Green Lantern, your father, can be your hero. They can be great. They can be all these terrific things, but still be fundamentally flawed in a way that you mustn't emulate. And this story over on Static took it a step further. Instead of making it an allegory for a racist dad, it's just like, hey, there are people out there who are good people living with racist things, and it's like, you don't necessarily know what that's like. You don't know the embarrassment and blah blah blah. And it was like,
right.
as much as it was teaching kids about racism, it's also like those kids that are steeped in racism and telling them, hey, you don't have to do this just because they do it. And that's an important message.
Exactly. Exactly. And and again, that's why I loved a lot of Dwayne McDuffie's writing, man. That's one of the things I just, dude, let's be honest, man. We haven't had a really good comic book writer like that in such a long time, dude. And then also, like, let's also talk about some of the work that he's done too. Like, I know, like, if I'm not mistaken, he got his start on Damage Control, right? It was Damage Control he got his start on.
Right, because it was like, give me just 1 second.
Yeah, right. And just for those of y'all that don't know what Damage Control is, basically what it was, let's say, like, we'll give you an example, like the first Avengers movie when they had the whole invasion, the whole thing with the invasion of the Chitauri, right? And you gotta think about who the fuck is gonna clean all this shit up. Well, that's where Damage Control comes in. They basically come in and clean up all the shit after after the villains and the superheroes fight and shit gets fucked up. They basically clean all the shit up, put it back to normal. And yeah, that's what Damage Control pretty much was about. And that was actually, that was where he got his start. And then after a while, he started noticing like some of the underrepresentation of black characters in comic books. Not saying that there wasn't black representation in comic books to begin with, because you also got to remember at the time he was doing comic books, we had Black Panther, we had Black Lightning, we had Cyborg, we had Storm, just to name a few. So there already was representation, but it was kind of to the point where it was underutilized, or there just wasn't enough. And hence where Milestone Comics came into play.
I would say too, also like the Damage Control thing is briefly referenced in one of the MCU movies.
Spider-Man, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's in one of them where like you can see it in the background, and I forget what all else he did because like early on he was editing stuff, and there's actually funny thing is there's one thing that he had a big point of contention with that it's funny because it's actually a character that I really enjoyed, but they had introduced, there's the one character that we see on the Spider-Man cartoon, that kid who takes all that tech and makes it into a skateboard or whatever.
Yes, damn it, I can't remember the character's name, but I know who you're talking about. Yes, that dude. I can't remember his fucking name, dude.
And then there was Night Thrasher, and apparently because they were both skateboarding characters, and they were just these young black skateboarding teens, and Dwayne kind of didn't like the fact that they were both, in his opinion, stereotypes. Yeah. And so he ended up writing up like a thing where it was, I think, Teenage Negro Ninja Skaters.
Yes, I remember hearing about that shit. I heard about
that. He took those two characters and added like two more and just like made it the most stereotypical script imaginable to kind of send home the message of like, hey, look at what you're doing. And see, my problem is I actually really like Night Thrasher. The thing is, though, my introduction to him, he wasn't on a skateboard.
Right. So I didn't. Yeah, I was gonna say, hold on, I gotta highlight this real quick. Yeah, it's like exactly. So Avi, exactly that's how what the fuck it started being at that point in the comic industry.
Right, and but yeah, like I said, my introduction to the guy, he was just a dude with armor and nightsticks who beat the hell out of you. Like I didn't really see the skater aspect of it from the issue I had read. Right. He was just more of like a team leader guy because it was like a Spider-Man annual. It was him and Namorita, or Namora, as you might want to call her nowadays.
Yeah, Namorita.
Speedball.
Yeah, Namorita. Speedball. The other dude that had the telekinetic Justice. Yeah, the dude with the telekinesis.
And Firestar from the cartoon.
Yeah, I remember like, Firestar.
They were all in this little team together, and he was like kind of the de facto leader whenever Spider-Man wasn't around. And so that was my introduction to him, as kind of like the badass, take charge, bulky, beat the hell out of you kind of guy. I didn't realize he was like another skater character. So I see where somebody could have a problem with him, but there's also that thing of like, if you get a shitty character, you can clean them up really, really well. Like one of the guys, one of the main influences over on Milestone, before he got his start there, he was put on like Luke Cage and then later on Black Panther.
Yeah.
And it's like those eras were really, really well because essentially they weren't written by white guys emulating black guys. They were just written by guys who really knew and loved these characters.
Right. And then one thing just also to add is that when we really talk about black superheroes, Dwayne Mcduffie created the first black superhero created by a black person. I just thought I would point that out there. I just thought I'd throw it out there. You know?
Well, no, because Black Lightning was created by a black guy who's very, very vocal about a lot of shit to the
I
point
thought
of being
Tony
annoying.
Isabella. No, he was created by Tony Isabella. Yeah, Tony Isabella's Latino, dude.
Nah, dude, there's somewhere out there, there is a very angry black guy affiliated with that creation, I would swear. Because anytime I've seen an interview with him, he is just super bitter and.
Really?
Yeah, I'll look more into it because maybe it is just a Latin guy who just looks really dark, and so I'm misconstruing it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, definitely. If you find out, let me know because I thought Tony Isabella was Latino, dude. That's what I thought. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
But like I said, I do know the creator has like had nothing positive to say. That's why it was what was it, Black Vulcan in the Justice Friends cartoon?
Oh my God! Why'd you got to bring up Black Vulcan?
Because the whole reason they did that is he wouldn't let them use Black Lightning.
Yeah,
he just
I remember.
Threw a big fit over it.
Yeah, I remember the whole thing behind that. It was a big fiasco.
And then, like recently, when he was being teamed up with Batman in the comics, like he threw even though that was like a really good arc that people were liking, he was just like throwing a fit saying, oh, he's just a fucking sidekick and blah, blah, blah. And he really couldn't wrap his mind around the fact that somebody can be partners.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what? Like, no, like, that's not even the thing with Blacklight. Like, wow, the fact that he even thought that.
But yeah, he's very anything.
Sound cut out. Went mute, Johnny. The hell? Yeah, I think he accidentally hit the mute button. Yeah, hopefully Johnny gets back on. Something had to happen on his end. But I mean, I'll go ahead and just kind of go into like some of the different creations that Dwayne Mcduffie did. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you. Is there static or are you outside or something? But yeah, I guess I'll go into the characters real quick that Dwayne created while Johnny fixed the technical difficulties. So with Milestone Media being created, the main characters that he mainly created that were mainly created by Dwayne Mcduffie was sorry, I'm like a little under the weather. Sorry, was Hardware. And essentially, if you don't know who Hardware is, I guess just to put in layman's term, he's Black Iron Man. But he was actually the first character that he created. Yeah, that's what I thought, so Avi. That's what I thought too. I thought he was Latino also. That's what I thought just from looking him up. Not just looking him up, but I remember seeing him on an episode of Black Lightning on one of the finales. He actually was Tony Isabella actually had a cameo role on Black Lightning as a judge by the name of Judge Isabella. But yeah. Yeah, so one of the characters he created was Hardware. His character's name was Curtis Metcalf, and he was a child prodigy. The kid came from an impoverished home in the ghetto, and he was a genius. and he ended up when he got older. He ended up working for a company called Alva Industries. And what happened in Alva Industries is that they took his inventions and turned them into weapons. And as pissed off as Curtis Metcalf was, he decided he was going to do something about it. So he created a suit of armor to basically to basically stop Alva Industries from using his shit. And that's pretty much Hardware, one of the characters that Dwayne McDuffie created. Another character that he was behind was Icon. Icon
Black
and Rocket.
Superman, to simplify it.
Thank you. That's actually where I was going to get to. I was going to get ready to say that he's essentially Black Superman.
Which makes me think, why did we need a Black Superman? I mean, not to be that guy, but I mean, we already had it. Like, put Icon to the forefront is what I've always thought.
No, I agree 100%. Anytime somebody brings up Black Superman or why do we make Superman black, I say, why the fuck do we need Black Superman when we have Icon? Like, come on, man. If anything, Icon's a more interesting character than a Black Superman. And I'll explain. Just his simple origin enough makes him more interesting than a Black Superman. Because the dude was a fucking alien was basically an alien fighting a bunch of dudes off in space. Ship got shot down, and he landed during the antebellum slavery time. And in order for him to survive, he had to basically replicate the DNA of another living life form. So he ended up replicating the DNA of a black slave woman, and he basically essentially turned himself into a baby and started growing up during slavery time. And of course, yeah, he basically was practically immortal, aged very slowly. So he lived through the slave time, through antebellum slavery, watched his whole family die, and then he met his wife. I can't remember around what time he met his wife. Was it around the 1920s or the 30s? I think it was.
See, the main part I remember is just like when he eventually comes back, he's impersonating his own grandfather.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting to. Is that he's basically impersonating his own grandfather every time. He basically fakes his death and then impersonates his quote unquote grandfather. And I know at one point he was married, and his wife had told him, he should use his powers to help people out, and he chose not to. He had to watch her die, and then of course, get to what is the 90s. Raquel Irving and I think it was her boyfriend and his friends. They were trying to rob. They basically broke into his house, tried to rob Icon, and the boyfriend ends up shooting Icon. Sees the bullets don't do shit to him. They freak out and leave. And then Raquel comes back the next day and basically kind of deduces the fact that he's not human, and basically convinces him to use his powers to help people, and hence is where you get Icon. And then, of course, Raquel becomes his sidekick using the alien technology that Icon has and becomes Rocket. Just kind of just kind of simplifying that one. And then let's not forget the one character that pretty much everybody should know. And if you don't know who this character is, then I'm going to slap the fuck out you. And that's Static Shock or Static. Like, I mean, who doesn't know Static? Like, seriously, who doesn't know Static?
Yeah, and then Static got even bigger because I think what I had seen is like when they did a big crossover event in DC, like all of that stuff ended up getting moved over, and then it was made more official with the New 52, where Static particularly kept really getting pushed into it. And then Rocket became a pretty good part of the cartoon Young Justice more recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They didn't really do the teen pregnancy thing with the cartoon.
They actually kind of skipped over it.
Yeah, it made it seem more like they were just responsible people deciding to have a kid.
Yeah.
Which, for that cartoon, I guess it works because there's too much other shit going on in there, and they were trying to They were also trying to deal with a different aspect of parenthood.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of interesting that they did that. Yeah, that was kind of interesting to do, and let's not forget Static was even in Young Justice also.
Right, and
Yeah,
they didn't give him a big enough part for my liking.
yeah, no, I got to agree with that. They really didn't do much with Static on that show, honestly. You know, because like I mean, let's be honest, like who, like it's like I said, who doesn't know Static? Like I don't know, and I remember like a while back, somebody tried to make the comparison of Static in Spider-Man, and I'm gonna be honest, that kind of didn't sit right with me to be 100% honest with you, man. That didn't to be honest with you, I didn't that didn't sit right with me, man.
Well,
I
I've
mean, I
seen I've
go
seen
ahead.
2 interviews with Dwayne where he's talking about one Static and the other he was talking about Firestorm. And what he says is he's like, I thought of him like a black Spider-Man, but what he's really saying is a black teen hero.
Yeah. Oh no, not that part. Just when someone literally tried to compare Spider-Man with Static. Not in that aspect. Like they literally tried to compare Spider-Man and Static, and it just didn't sit right with me. Like just kind of the origins and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, no. If you're talking about Static, you know, as far as being a young superhero like Spider-Man, okay, I get that. But to kind of compare their origins is kind of apples to oranges. You know what I mean? Like it's really apples to oranges as far as like their origin and stuff like that. Like if anything, the only thing I could really see that they have in common is that they're both nerds and they're both wisecracker. They both like to wisecrack. That's about it. Other than that, they're really not the same. Not only that, I think Static would kill Spider-Man. But that's just me being biased right now. That's just me being hella biased. But yeah, I did want to talk about some of the writing for Justice League Unlimited. I don't know, man. Did you ever notice how like with some of the writing, like compared the writing from the regular Justice League to Justice League Unlimited to where like in which is something that I do like about Dwayne McDuffie is that there was a lot of character development on Young Justice. I don't know if you, I mean, not Young Justice on Justice League Unlimited. I don't know if you ever noticed that. With just they give so many characters character development, even like characters that aren't like main core members. They develop those characters like kind of like how they do with Green Arrow and with Vixen and Huntress and the Question. Kind of with those characters, how they give them screen time and they just take the time to really develop those characters and flesh them out lot more, which is one of the things I really like about Dwayne McDuffie's writing is that he takes the time to develop the characters and flesh them out to where they're a well-rounded character, and you can kind of understand, you know, why the characters think the way they think, why the characters do the things they do, and that's something that I think that's missing in a lot of modern day comic book writing now is that some characters don't get fully fleshed out like that, you know. And that's something that that's one of the things I always kind of give a lot of credit to Dwayne McDuffie because he takes his time with the characters and he actually fleshes them out. But I mean, that's just how I look at it. That's how I look at it when I read some of his writing and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, I mean, and like I said, it was just tragic, you know, just the fact that he passed. And what makes it sad is that he passed away the day after his birthday. That's the tragic part is that he passed away a day after his birthday.
Which we're coming up on his birthday later this month too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna like you know me like I'm gonna like I said you know I'm gonna pay my I'm gonna pay my respects to the man because I
And
mean
he was only like 49. Like
yeah
dude, imagine, especially because he had just had a meeting with Samuel L. Jackson's. According to the wife, she said it was the people, but I think Samuel L. Jackson might have actually been at one of those meetings, and they were gonna have him start writing movies and shit. Like,
yeah
dude, imagine what the DCU would have been like if Dwayne had been there all along.
bruh, who you telling?
Like, dude, I feel like none of that fiasco would have happened had, because like they were trying to get comic book guys in. Like, who was the Green Lantern guy they kept trying to bring in, but he just wasn't making the transfer well.
Wasn't Skyver, was it?
I think it was the Blackest Night guy.
Oh, Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns, yeah, they tried bringing him in to do some stuff, but he just wasn't making the transition well.
Yeah,
from comics to movies, and it's like Dwayne, he made the transition from comics to television like it wasn't shit, and then from that to the animated movies like it wasn't, like it was nothing, and it's just like a lot of it too is because all the dude did was read. He read so many books all the time that, to me, if you're writing these kind of stories, you can't just be inspired by other stories like this. You have to read, you have to read some Hemingway, some Mark Twain, some fucking some R.L. Stein. Like you got to get different things and different storytellings, and then on top of that, knowing history, knowing politics, all these things builds on it, man. And he knew all that stuff because he was just always reading and always just filling his mind with so much. And that's one of the reasons he was so great, is this, like, almost anything he's writing, it's like he's seen it before, and so he knows what to do with it.
Yeah, and it's like, it's damn near like the dude is like literally painting a fucking picture. You know what I mean? Actually, it's not even like he's painting you a picture. It's like he's basically taking everything he's seen and throwing it on a damn projector for you to see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like, it's like I said, you don't get a lot of writing like that these days. And yeah, let's be honest, like, the dude is definitely making the transition very well. Justice League Unlimited proved that point. Ben 10 proved that.
Yeah, the best era of Ben 10. Like, the earliest stuff before he joined was kind of childish, and then everything after his passing just couldn't live up to the hype, man. It's like those two that everybody says, oh, those are the best. Nobody realizes they're the best because it was Dwayne McDuffie.
Exactly.
And I didn't realize it until after Dwayne McDuffie had passed, and I was marathoning it, right? I think it was on a streaming thing, and I noticed when his name popped up, I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. And I kept watching, and then when it disappeared, I was like, wait a minute. Like, and that's when I finally got it. Like, that's why it was so fucking great, is because the dude knows storytelling. He knows character development, like you were saying, character development. That's why Kevin Levin was able to be such a good, like, from villain to good guy into temporary villain again. Like, it all made sense. It never felt like WWE. Like, sometimes those dudes do heel changes just to do it, just because it's time. There's no logic behind it. Versus when Kevin had that little relapse, there was total logic behind why he had it.
Yeah.
And it was all done so well, man. Especially with, like, Ben, because Ben was so fucking annoying, and he managed to keep that, like, annoyance and, like, hard-headedness, but he softened it and let the character grow in a way that, like, he became tolerable and you even rooted for him.
Yeah. And it's like I said, you don't get a lot of that type of writing nowadays. You really don't. It's very
really
rare.
It's just him and Dave Filoni, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, as I said, you get very few. Like, it's almost non-existent nowadays. People just write characters just to write them and just hope to God you fucking like the character. And it's like, no, that's not how it fucking works. You gotta flesh the characters out. You know, you gotta give us a reason to wanna root for these characters. You know, and then also probably I think one of the best episode. I don't know if this episode was written by Dwayne Mcduffie. The Batman Beyond epilogue. I think he helped. I think he was behind that one, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly which episode. I'm just trying to see if I can remember which writer was on it. But it's also one of those things where, like, just because you're the writer, like, everybody else kind of comes in with their little their little ideas and helps everybody out. Like,
yeah, just
it's rare that one guy just like does the whole thing. Every now and again, somebody, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? But yeah, no, dude, that is such a great fucking episode, and like, especially after Kevin Conroy passed on, the amount of times that people share that scene of Batman sitting with Ace, dude, I saw that scene so many times.
That scene always brings me to tears, dude. Every time I watch it, I always get brought to tears because that actually was one of those very, very little human moments you see with Batman. Like one of the very few human moments that Batman has throughout the entire Justice League Unlimited.
And it reminds me too of like you remember that scene in Batman versus Robin in the very beginning when he says something like, "Oh yeah, your special." He says, "Oh yeah, your specialty." Abused children or some shit like that, or emotionally messed up children. And you start to realize like Batman's humanity tends to come out around kids more than anything else. Like there's that other story where he changes his suit a little bit to make it like more kid friendly, to make it he's like I'm trying to steer criminals, not children.
Yeah, and, just frontier. Yeah.
Right. And so it kind of goes back to that. It's like the fact that he's having that moment, with a kid, it's like all he sees is himself in that alley scared.
Right.
And like that's the reason he always takes on these kid sidekicks too, is because he sees himself and he sees it's that perfect scene where it's like from Justice League Young Justice, when everybody's getting pissed off about the fact that Batman knew that Billy was actually Shazam. And he's like, I didn't think it was a big deal. Of course you didn't. You who took Robin out at the ripe old age of 8. Robin needed to get justice for his parents. So that he'd be like you? No, so that he wouldn't. And like there was that silence so that he wouldn't be like me. And it's just like that. It's that love that Batman has for kids that breaks down, shows his humanity, and they knew what to do with that, man. They knew how to put that in that story, and especially because like that episode was like the one that introduces them, not that one, but the one before it. Was almost a forget me episode. It's like its only purpose was putting the Teen Titans in the Justice League.
Pretty much.
That was the only purpose of it. It was just like it seemed kind of random. But when it tied together in that episode and then tied together with the other series, I mean, damn, dude, it was so good. And the implication, of course, is that Matthew McGinnis is also Bruce's son.
Yep. Yeah, and I think he ends up becoming Robin in the comic book too. Yeah, he becomes Robin Beyond in the comics.
And then they, for whatever reason, switch it over to the woman being the focus of the comic, and then they wonder why it got canceled.
Jeez, yeah, with Batwoman Beyond, yeah, that was just kind of what the fuck. And it's like I always say, man, it's like you gotta keep your story consistent. Oh wait, they actually did do a Black Batman in the comics. Jace Fox. I'm actually gonna talk about that on another show. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me that next week I'm gonna do another show talking about Black DC characters. I'm definitely gonna cover that. But
what's his name? That was Future State Batman, was it not?
Yeah, he's actually he not only just Future State, but he's actually currently Batman right now. Him and Bruce Wayne are both Batman at the same time, except while I think Bruce is still in Gotham. I know Jace is in New York now as Batman. Yes. So Avi, it really happened, and like I said, I'm gonna cover a lot of that stuff next week. And I'm gonna be honest, the writing for that version of for Jace Fox, like I'm gonna be honest, the writing in Future State is way better than how they have him in the main continuity. I'm just gonna be 100% honest. It's way better in his Future State storyline is way better than it is in what they're doing with him right now. I think part of it is because I think it's John Ridley that's writing him right now, and yeah, if you know anything about John Ridley, you already know it's not like the best writing on the fucking planet. But I digress. But yeah, but let me ask you this real quick. Compared to how Milestone Comics is now compared to how it was before, do you think the writing now lives up to what Dwayne Mcduffie did, or you think it'll never live, or you think they'll never get to that level?
I think it's an impossibility because the thing is, Milestone it started as its own thing, just like apparently Dwayne wasn't even one of the first guys in on it. Yeah. It was two of the other guys got together and they came to Dwayne and he looked at them and said, "You're crazy." They're like, "No, man, we can do this. You know, blah blah blah." Yeah, somebody else altogether was supposed to be the editor, and for whatever reason, I guess another thing came up. He ended up stepping out, so Dwayne stepped up to be the editor, and so he kind of became the leader, but he wasn't the guy who pushed it all out there. And the deal they ended up making, which unfortunately had its negative side, is they made a deal with DC where they had no creative control whatsoever. All they could say is we will or won't publish. They could make suggestions and say this would make us more likely to publish this, but at the end of the day, all they could do is say yes or no, we will or won't publish it. They had no real editorial power. And that's why I think you can never replicate that, is because everybody nowadays is too afraid of cancel culture, of if you do this, people are going to come after you, blah, blah, blah. And so for a creative to step outside of that and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go in this direction, and I'm going to shake some cages, like nobody's going to do that. And because they don't have the creative ability to do it, it's like, it can't happen to me.
Yeah. No, I actually have to agree with that, because even I was just kind of thinking the same thing. Like, I don't think they'll ever get to where they used to be. I mean, it's a good attempt, but I don't think they'll ever get up to that level. I don't think they'll be able to live up to what they used to be.
Like Milestone specifically, another company could come along and I think really do some crazy stuff, as long as they were like under Image or under Kaboom, maybe somebody who's going to give them or like Dark Horse really needs something to save their ass right about now.
I mean,
something
go ahead,
something where they're not going to fucking, if that corporate overhead thing is happening, like you're not going to get anything similar. That's just all there is to it. And that's what Dwayne had, is like they had very little censorship or anything to worry about. And so they could just fucking do. And nobody can do that anymore, other than like the guys at Image, and they're doing their own thing. They're not doing
actually there's like two companies right now that kind of, there's one, I know it's called Black Sands. I know he does his own thing, and then there's also another dude who just started his own company. He actually funded it himself, and he actually made about $3 million in like over $3 million, and I think it was like a month. Ripperverse. I don't know if you ever heard about it.
You told me about one of these, but I don't remember which.
It might have been Ripperverse, man. Yeah, I'm actually probably gonna end up buying that. I'm probably gonna actually buy his first book probably next month. I'm gonna end up getting it, and I'm gonna let y'all know how it is. But from what I've been hearing, like, it's actually a really good book, and he's actually working on issue 2 right now at the moment. And the crazy thing is that the dude funded the shit himself. That's the fucked up part. And he actually hired like some actual comic pros to write in and do the artwork. And it's actually, the artwork is actually very impressive. Like, it almost looks like you're looking at something out of like a Marvel or a DC comic book, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like it's really good shit. Like I actually want to read up on it. And, you know, kind of like really give y'all my honest opinion on it. But I don't doubt that the book is good though. Like, I don't doubt it. just for the simple fact of the simple fact that the dude's been in the comic books for a long time, and he's always had his critiques about Marvel and DC, which is how the writing and shit has gone to trash. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But which, let's be honest, it really has kind of gone to trash. You know?
Oh, dude, I couldn't even bring myself, like when they brought the Batman Beyond comic book back, I couldn't even bring myself to follow it. Like I want, and there's been a lot of comics, man, where I've looked at it and I've wanted so bad. I'm like, oh, that looks good, that looks so good, and then I have to stop and think to myself, it's probably not.
Yep.
It's
That's how
probably not. Like, I think there's a new John Stewart line that just came out, dude. I was eyeballing. I actually did buy the first issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, there just wasn't enough to make me say, "Oh yeah, I need to have this on my pull list. I got to have this."
Yeah.
It was just like they're just not doing it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, dude. Like, I mean, that's how I kind of got with Superman with Action Comics 1050.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I got with that one for me. I got a little iffy. Then I actually read it, and what the fuck? They they basically just made Superman even more OP than he already is. Yeah, I don't know if you heard about that new ability that he has now.
Um, I maybe did, but I don't think so. It's not coming to my brain.
Essentially, he can teleport and disassemble shit just by touching it.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I think that was their clap back to Goku being able to do instant transmission. Let me shut the fuck up. I'm just trying to stir the pot right now. Let me shut the fuck up. But no, but seriously, that's pretty much his new ability now.
It's just a half-ass rip-off of instant transmission.
Well, basically, it was weird. Like first, Lex Luthor teleported him somewhere, and then he showed back within seconds, and basically disassembled Lex Luthor's armor just by touching it.
Yeah. See, I can see the Flash doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like I see Flash doing some shit like that, but Soups. And all I know is it had to do with Superman getting dipped into white solar energy, and that's how he got his new powers. And he got like a huge power up.
Yeah, see, I could see that because I have always read that it's like red weakens him, yellow is the standard, and white overpowers him. So
Yeah,
that's nothing new, but I
yeah.
mean, if it doesn't wear off after a certain point, it's like, what am I reading this for?
Yeah, basically they're trying to bring him back to pre-crisis Superman, but let's be honest, we already know how that went in the past.
They try to reboot shit too much. That's another thing about DC. Like with the movies and everything, it's like I'm so done with you guys. I still appreciate the animated shit.
Yeah, I'm kind of like taking a break from DC too.
Like I still love the crap out of the animated stuff. Like I just rewatched that Green Lantern Beware My Power, and dude, so good.
Yeah,
Like
I was surprised that was pretty good.
the Super Sons one, like that was probably my wife's favorite. I remember when I watched it the first time, dude, I laughed and laughed. I laughed so damn hard.
That one actually exceeded my expectations because me and my girl, we were both watching it. We could not stop laughing watching that shit. I was surprised how good that movie was.
And normally my wife is just kind of about these, but like that one, she one day, a few days ago, just put it on just to put it on.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, all right, that's new. She doesn't normally throw on DC stuff, but she really enjoyed that one. They did a great job, and I'm looking forward to a sequel. Um, but
Yeah.
talking about the movies and try to take it back to Dwayne McDuffie, I got to say, to me, the best one that they've ever made is actually the only one that's PG, and that's All Star Superman, which
Yes.
which I think was uh, Grant Morrison was the original
Yeah,
author
Grant Morrison.
who had done like a 12-part issue, and then Dwayne was the one who kind of figured out how to tell that exact same story just in smaller parts. And what I loved about it too is like normally the thing everybody hates about Superman is he's too perfect, and that's why you hate him. And this story is very strange because he's perfect, but that's why you love him.
Yeah.
And like that was the thing that I thought was particularly fucking brilliant. And of all these ones that I've seen, and some of them are really, really great, I think that the beginning and end of their animated universe, you know, Flashpoint Paradox and the final Justice League Dark, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh, those two are freaking brilliant, and I loved both of them. But like, neither of them compare.
No. All Star Superman is one of those ones I can still to this day go back and watch and just be like, it'll be like I'm watching a new movie every single time. You know, it's that good of a fucking movie to where you want to watch it again and again and again. You know,
And
I don't even like Superman like that. So that's really saying something.
and that's the other thing, man, is I'm a Batman guy. I don't really give a crap
Exactly.
about Superman. Like to me, the least good one out of all of them is Superman versus the Elite.
Oh, that was fucking trash.
Yeah, that's the least fucking watchable out of all of them. So like Superman is the top and bottom. But most of those tops, man, are like, you know, for me, it's all the Batman stuff and or the
Yep.
Justice League stuff. But like for them to write really good Superman, and I'll say too, another thing that I love that Dwayne had did was Doom, because if anybody deserved to be the one to usher Cyborg into the Justice League, it was him.
And he did a good job with that shit.
Oh, dude, he did such a great job. Such a simple little story, but like the way it was Batman's plans turned against everybody and like turned all the way up and just even down to like one of the more subtle writings of Green Lantern, because like Green Lantern, Hal Jordan when he's young is very arrogant, kind of fly
Yep.
boy, whatever. But Hal Jordan when he's older is much more military minded. He's just like practical. I've led enough shit into battle that I understand things. And so
Yeah.
when Batman is just like has a plan to take everybody down, he's like, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is you let somebody get a hold of the plan. Just that
Yeah.
subtle little thing that because he would be the one guy in the room, mature Hal Jordan would say, yeah, I understand, I get it.
Yeah.
Between because he saw what happened at this point with um what's that red face fucker Sinestro.
Yeah.
So it's like he knows a motherfucker who's good can go bad. He's seen it. So it's like it's a
Yeah.
very casual thing for him to be like, yeah, all right. And just those subtle little things to know who that character is. And it's back to what you're saying, character development, to really know who that fucking character is. And I mean, that's what made him so brilliant. Is those characters were so three-dimensional.
Exactly, man. Yeah, couldn't have said it any better, dude. Like that's really what makes Dwayne McDuffie the GOAT. That at the end of the day, that's just what it is. Like, and that's something I couldn't take away from him. You
You know, and
know?
it's something we can learn from too. Like if we're sitting there,
Exactly.
we're in a writing room, we're trying to figure out what's happening, to think about who would say what information, not just what information needs to be said to move the story along. That's important too, but
Right.
which character would say it and how would they say it?
Right. Like just to make a character say some shit just willy nilly, just out of nowhere, is just kind of dumb. You got to really factor all that shit in. I think, and you know what? I honestly think that a lot of times when Dwayne McDuffie was writing, he didn't rush it. He took his time and really gave it a lot of thought before he just put something on paper. And it clearly shows every time, you read either one of his books or you watch any piece of animation that he's written, it clearly shows.
See, the one I want to go back and check out is because he caught a bunch of flack because they brought him onto the Justice League line and they decided they were going to introduce two more black characters on top of the two that were already there. And a lot of people at the time, oh, it's a black book, blah blah blah, whatever, whatever. And it was like,
Oh yeah, I remember that shit. I was like telling you, shut the fuck up. I remember that fucking shit.
but I want to go back and read that series because the thing is like he even said, like, I didn't go in there with any kind of agenda. They told me they wanted to add a couple more characters. I was fine with that. People chose to make their own things, which is shit that they still do. Like,
Yeah.
you and I are always going on about, this is woke, that's woke. But then when you go online, some shit is just a good idea or maybe a neutral idea. And still there's all these little keyboard warriors. Oh, it's woke. It's this, it's that. No,
Bro, don't get me
it's not
started.
always. It's not always. Sometimes yes,
Yeah.
sometimes no, and sometimes you and me might agree on what is and isn't tasteful,
Yeah.
but
And
yeah,
and I even read his run on the Justice League. It actually was pretty good. It wasn't a bad run.
yeah. So I want to try it because I want to read it and like I want to see what the non-fuss was about.
And really, the only big issue they had with that was because of the fact that they added John Stewart, Green Lantern, Black Lightning, and Vixen onto the fucking team. That's why they were like, "Oh, it's a fucking black book, all this shit." That was why they did that.
Right. Which I mean, and there was still way more white characters. That's the thing. It's not
Yeah,
like it
that's
was.
why.
It's not like it
Right,
was just four black characters and then Superman and Wonder Woman, and that was it.
right. That's why I was like scratching my head the whole time.
But people just like to complain.
Yeah, I
And
feel that.
that also goes back to that thing where like one of the guys was saying, I wish Dwayne had gotten this recognition in life because I don't think at the time people would attack him like this, but like the legacy he's left behind and that now that people know who he is and what he's done, like I think he'd be the guy who would get a constant pass. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the actor who's probably going to be playing Charles Xavier? He's
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah, he's going to get a pass because of the work he's put into various nerd related things. He's put in the time for this and that, so he's going to get a pass. And and I think like Dwayne would have been given a pass at this point in his career had he still been here for it.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate thing too, is like we're never really going to get to see the height of what he could have done.
Yeah, and that sucks. I mean, because I'm thinking like, if he was still around, you think he probably would have been a better. You think they would have picked him instead of Jeff Johns as far as like one of the advisors for the DCEU?
We'll see. Because he was already going to go into movies of his own accord, I think he would have already had the experience that would have been the natural guy they looked to.
Right.
Because he would have gone off, done his own thing. Like I said, he was supposed to do something for Samuel L. Jackson, which Samuel probably knew who he was beforehand. And yeah, I think he would have gotten a successful movie career thing going, and
Yeah.
that would have made them the obvious guy to go to. And like some of those movies wouldn't have been quite so sporadic. I don't know
Yeah.
how else to describe them. Some of those movies just don't make fucking sense to me.
Yeah. Nah, I feel you, dude. I feel you. And especially with the way like DC's going right now, which I might make another video. I might do another live stream talking about James Gunn's on the whole thing with James Gunn's choice as far as movies and how he wants to reboot DC. I think I'm gonna do a video on that. All I'm gonna say is this: I'm really not that impressed. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like I'm not impressed by as far as like what James Gunn's movie choices and stuff like that, which projects he wants to do. I'm really not that impressed.
Dude, I'm tired of soft reboots.
Yeah,
That's
I just
like
don't.
either reboot it 100% all the way together or finish the damn story and then start a new one. But like, it seems like he's trying to pick and choose which movies stay part of this universe, and I'm like, and I don't know how the fuck he's gonna piece it together in the way he's going. And then there's also the thing I've been saying for the longest. Without Patty Jenkins, I'm just not that fucking interested. And
Yeah.
I wanted to see her trilogy the way it needed to play out, and yeah, I'm not interested. He dicked around Henry Cavill. Well, not him, but but the thing is, he's the one ultimately making the call to not bring Cavill back.
Right. That's why I'm kind of like, how are you going to say the studio did come around, but ultimately it's on you?
And then he's running the risk of The Rock not coming back, because The Rock's making it seem like, oh, I'll probably be back later, but I really think he's waiting to see how it plays out. If it goes downhill, I don't see him coming back.
Nah, I'm gonna be honest, man. I just don't really I just don't really see it ending well. I just don't see it ending well, man. As much as, and don't get me wrong, I like James Gunn. I like some of I like some of his movies, but I just think he's making he made a huge misstep as far as with the projects that he's deciding to greenlight. I think it's a huge misstep in my opinion.
And the thing that kills me too is because once I write something off, I write something off. The one thing I never want to be is one of these fanboys who shows up to the theater with their scathing blog review half written. If I dislike something enough, I will simply not watch it. And so, with the DCU, it's so bad that I just said, fuck it, I'm done with it. And the thing that kind of breaks my heart is I was really looking forward to Blue Beetle, man.
Yeah,
But it's like they sucked all the fun out of it. I can't get myself excited about it. And it's fucking Blue Beetle, man.
yeah,
And it looks incredible.
Yeah, I fucking love Blue Beetle. That's the sad part is I fucking love Blue Beetle, and it's like I don't even know if I'm even gonna. I don't know, man. I don't even know if I'm even gonna watch it or not. Like it just feels like at this point, it just feels like it's pointless because it's not going to be included in the main DC universe. So I mean, it's bruh.
Even that's the thing. Even if it's good, it's just going to leave you like a little empty space in your heart where it could have been more, where it could have been put into something bigger, put into something better. Same thing with I've heard, you know, mostly pretty good things about The Rock's movie. And I've heard a few people, oh, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. But most people I've said it was pretty damn good. And even though it's streaming, I just can't bring myself to do it. Black Adam.
I'll be honest, man. As far as like the storyline, it's alright, but the action scenes, I will be honest, it's probably some of the best action scenes that I've seen from a DC movie in a long time. I'll be honest about that. The seat like the let's put it this way. The special effects are better than anything you've seen in any Marvel movie that's out right now. You know? It's actually it's got a good balance of action and comedy. Like it's got a good amount of action in it.
And see, I've wanted to see The Rock as this character since I found out this character existed.
Yeah,
The Rock still had hair when I first found out about this character, and I wanted to see that shit happen. And then, when it finally happened, it was like, dude, I couldn't get excited about it.
Yeah, and that's because DC were sitting around with their thumbs up their ass trying to figure out what to do with Black Adam when again I keep telling everybody Black Adam, that project has been sitting on the back burner since the early 2000s. That's been on the back burner since the early 2000s as far as The Rock playing Black Adam. That was been hinted at in I think it was 05. Around that time. It was around 05, 06, something like that. And they just kind of left it there. Warner Bros. Didn't really do shit with it until just recently. So, yeah, there's that.
Which I mean would have been fine had the rest of it played out. The one thing I say is we deserve a satisfying ending for the Trinity that they introduced.
Yeah.
For Cavill, Affleck, and Godot, we deserve a good, satisfying story with those three before they jump onto something else. And they're just like, no, fuck you. We're going to jump onto this other thing. And I just don't know that I'm going to ride with them. And what sucks too is I don't know if I'm sticking with the MCU much longer either. after
Bro,
like with Ironheart coming up, I'm just flat out not gonna watch it.
Yeah, same.
I'm just gonna tell my buddy. Just gonna tell somebody who did watch it. Just give me the play-by-play. Tell me what happened. Tell me the important information I need.
Same.
You know, if Rhodey shows up, I'll watch those specific scenes.
Yeah, like if anything, the only thing I'm really looking forward to watching that's even Marvel is Ant-Man and Armor Wars.
Armor Wars, especially.
Yeah.
The Ant-Man one, yeah, we're probably gonna go see in the theater like a week later, so I'm gonna have to really stay off the internet. Like I'm gonna actually just straight up delete the apps off of where I normally have them on my main screen, because like, you know, when you're bored, you open your phone, you just start clicking shit.
Yep.
I don't want to just accidentally click on Facebook because I'm bored. So I'm like, I'm just gonna remove all that stuff for an entire week. Because it comes out Friday, I won't get to see it till the following Thursday.
Yeah, I feel you, man. But hey, man, yeah, with that being said, you know, I'm probably gonna definitely end the stream right here because my wife just brought my lunch in. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and eat up right now, man. So yeah, I do, but again, man, I do appreciate you joining me on the stream. Definitely appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely, man. Had a blast. Dwayne is one of the best, and the more people who can get out there and learn about him. And by the way, there is a documentary available on YouTube about him. Just look up Dwayne Mcduffie documentary, and it's about 40 minutes, and it's just all his closest friends being interviewed, telling you about his amazing life. So if you guys want to learn more, go check that out.
Yeah, and I'll definitely go ahead and post the link in the description box once this video gets posted. I'll go ahead and edit it on the back burner, and I'll go ahead and put the I'll put the link to that 40-minute documentary on there. So yes, you know, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and end today's stream. Again, I do appreciate everybody that came through. Really, really do appreciate it. And as always, Johnny, I really appreciate you, you know, joining me, man. You know, you're always welcome on my show at any time, man.
Right on, man.
All right. Well, this is your boy Darkstar Menace, and I'm gonna be dropping out. Y'all be safe, okay? Peace.
Thank you for watching the C.A.N.S podcast. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share this video. Until next time, peace.